1 year ago, I made a Sonic the Hedgehog 3 fan animatic where I had both Robotniks doing 31 back-to-back meme dances. And wow, you guys really liked it! I was able to take this song that I recently fell in love with and turn it into a collective 3 million view hit, where 2/3 of the comments were asking what song I was using, while still staying for Grandpa's hypnotic dance moves. Art and animation are both very deep-rooted interests of mine, so what kind of obsessive chatterbox would I be if I didn't let myself geek out about that and stuff that hyperfixation on YouTube? I just started toying with animations about a year ago, but the impact of a deliberate and dedicated shitpost pushed me from just a measly 500-something subscribers to over 11,000 of you? Thank you? So what is it about a scrappy-looking minute-long animatic that makes it so memorable anyway? Within the first 2 months after the launch of the movie, there was a trend on Twitter where people would pair the clip of the movie with a song matching the beats per minute of the music originally used in the movie. I was personally really underwhelmed by the movie's performance when I watched it. Coincidentally, I was hooked on this song called Hai Yorokonde by Kochi no Kento, who worked on the opening for My Hero Academia Vigilantes. So the moment it clicked that this higher tempo song I was hooked on would be a much more interesting replacement from what I had envisioned, I couldn't waste any time. This animatic ended up being a week-long project, and I had to make this work while the laser dance meme was still fresh and I wasn't sick of the music I had in mind yet. So I had to think, the only way to guarantee that my target audience would like this is to impress myself. Other than me being hooked on the song I used, there were 2 undeniable truths that came to light. 1, I needed to leave 0 room for me to get bored watching this back. That means I can't dwell on any of these meme dances long enough for them to look like they're just there to fill up watch time. They were all picked up with the intent to be sharp, something difficult to tear myself away from. For example, Caramel Dancin' was a meme that crossed my mind during this whole process, would not have been a good fit for the project. The signature moves in the original music video were made to look sweet and cutesy. What I was aiming for had a tag team action movie level performance. It had to be bold, like 2 supervillains crashing an episode of Dancing with the Stars. I had to be intentional with this lineup.
Presentation!
2, I had to dig deep into my monkey brain for the memes I react strongest to and strategically categorize them by theme. The name of the game was Be Profoundly Stupid. I would allocate the sillier segments in the intro where each character had his turn to do a performative power move to impress the other, which would in turn slide into the more dynamic and high energy segments, like a really weird mating dance you couldn't look away from. This video had to end on a strong note too, so they couldn't stop moving until they finally hit that iconic lifting pose from the movie, which honestly was a reference to an entirely different movie, Dirty Dancing from 1987. This video ended up having a lot more layers than I anticipated. My favorite characters growing up were the direct inspiration for me becoming an animator in the first place. And while I do feel bad about ignoring some of the bigger Tumblr fandoms, like whatever the Super Hula crowd had going on, I had a personal calling for the shows that sounded more like... I mean, it was funny. What do you want from me? My inspirations, without a shadow of a doubt, were the ones that weren't afraid to go dramatically off-model for the gag. Half the science behind a show that commits to blindsidingly slapstick humor is finding that balance that makes a completely random trapdoor of a joke reveal something honestly believable for the universe it takes place in. Why else would we have yet to find a joke that measures up to the hilarity of...
What happened to the stairs?
If you set up a character or a universe to allow for a certain type of joke to be believable, it doesn't give room to break the immersion, so long as it plays by the rules it sets. The fact of the matter is, the Sonic movie takes place in the same universe that we live in, and if Dr. Robotnik didn't know about these memes in the beginning of the franchise, well, he had a lot of time to learn before Grandpa came around.
I was saving it for Comic-Con, but now there won't be a Comic-Con!
But realistically, movie Eggman is also the only Eggman that would. In the cartoon animated universes, never mind the fact that Robotnik isn't the type to be so physically active without some kind of vehicle. I mean, he is a genius, why would he? Anime Robotnik is only concerned with the universe he lives in. Meanwhile, Robotnik might have thrown in a reference in a way that no one will understand 15 years from now. But he couldn't be bothered to keep that up forever. You can only break the same wall so many times. In the live action, Jim Carrey is the man of the hour, and the very reason this is possible at all. I can't speak on his personal understanding of memes, but the way he carries his character's interests and quirks needs no further explanation. In fact, he does it twice!
We're 2 characters in a movie, being played by the same actor.
The DNA of his comedic brands lands just as prominently for a child in the 2020s the way it has for the last 4 decades. So if Jim Carrey showed up in the Sonic 4 movie and he, I don't know, made a Jumbotron appearance at a Coldplay concert, it wouldn't surprise me at all. So now that we know why this concept works, We have to know how to implement that. All I've said so far is that Jim Carrey would, and that memes are subjectively funny. But that isn't enough. I know you must be thinking this is all just some pointless rambling, but having a good reason to use the right characters in any piece of work is what separates a mildly entertaining idea from a genuinely clever and memorable mashup. Now for the most obvious part of the animation. I gave Gerald and Ivo this simple, cute, and goofy design that distinguishes them from a more default doodle. Once you isolate a character's most key features, even as nearly identical parallels, they still manage to stay unmistakably identifiable. Both doctors have their trademark lab coats, bushy mustaches that extend past the sides of their heads, and Homer Simpson-shaped bodies, which is when the Robotnik DNA begins to rear its egg-shaped head. The difference is in the level of exaggeration I incorporate into Gerald's design. His forehead wrinkles and the bushy eyebrows that cover his eyes entirely separate him from Ivo's forehead goggles and much wider, unobscured eyes. Even in black and white, you can tell them apart without a second thought. Despite the fact that you can clearly see their faces, the characters' identity is ultimately the most defined by their silhouettes, because what I made was a more fast-paced video. I couldn't afford to count on my audience to sit and figure out what they were looking at. The human brain takes up to 1/10 of a second to process pattern recognition. So if your design isn't immediately obvious to your audience, you've already lost them. If I hadn't thought any of this through and decided to end the overall concept as just some bald fat guy with a bushy mustache, that could honestly be one of my uncles for all you know. But let's shift the focus from the movie Robotnik I described and break down the iconic Robotnik. His silhouette reminds me of a poop emoji. His boots and gloves flare out, he has a drooping Squidward nose, the whites of his eyes are filled in black, and his mustache flares out past his face. Now when you push this design next to my movie Robotnik design, you can clearly see who's who, even if you can't see their faces. That's when you begin to see why cartoonishly exaggerated shapes make a huge difference in successful fictional media. Good character design comes when recognizing a character you know becomes an impulse. Let me be clear, without pure belief and an innate desire to scratch this itch I got after watching this movie, you could never convince me that this silly idea would break 1 million views. At the time, my videos would peak at maybe 4,000 to 6,000 views, but that was because I tagged creators who had kept themselves relevant on a daily basis. Not only do entire movies come and go by nature of how trends work, but as far as I know, Jim Carrey doesn't use social media. Believe me, I would love nothing more than to see his reaction to my work. But other than the algorithm, all I had on my side was determination. So when people say don't do social media for the algorithm, just do what makes you happy, think about it this way. Had I made a cold combination of pick a pop song and make them dance, especially as someone who thought she'd never even pass 100,000 views, it probably would have just come out soulless and lazy. But the itch that I had to will this into existence had me genuinely excited to see the finished product. The ultimate formula was to find a reason to get obsessed with the end result before I even knew it existed. I did get impatient with it sometimes, and I jumped from segment to segment and even rearranged some of it until the puzzle was finally put together. I would watch over it obsessively, redraw some of the poses to make sure they were sharp enough to stick out so that you could never miss a single beat, and even if this did get stuck in 800 view jail, at least it existed in the first place. That alone would help me feel accomplished. In the next coming days, the views got abnormally high, so I did what any pro YouTuber would do and reposted the same video with the memes and references I used presented within the video itself. Not only did that one alone smash 10,000 views overnight, but it didn't take long to break the view count of the original. So today, while the first one is just shy of 1 million views, the repost video is sitting at over 2 million views. Of course, I wish that kind of number would mean being closer to 3 million subscribers, but starting from barely over 500, I didn't think I really existed. So to grow over 20 times from the point that I was an insane ask in and of itself. And to say the words, "if I can do it, anybody can," feels ingenuine, even if it's obviously true. So if I had to end this off with a solid piece of advice, lean into your obsessions and study them until the parts that make it a masterpiece extend the same grace to you. Once you understand why you love what you do, that key piece of information is exactly the reason someone else does too. It's using that to the best of your ability that will guarantee your success in whatever path you choose. Hi everyone! I am so excited to finally have my first long-form video out, and even more excited to see just the positive feedback. I'm just so honored to have the chance to talk about my process and what goes through my mind when I make these things. So please, if you can, follow me on social media. You can see more of my projects, more of what I like to talk about and share. And if there's anything else you'd like for me to discuss, please let me know in the comments. It would be such a big help. Let's talk about our favorite things together so that I have a new video for you to look forward to next time.